5:34. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Water Sewer Commission's meeting, and ask everyone to please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, a nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right.
I was absent from the last meeting. So
You were?
Steve motion and abstained from voting.
Okay. All righty then.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the October 8th, 2024 Water Sewer Commissioners meeting
I second it.
presented.
I second. All in favor?
Same.
All right.
We signed those already, so that should be
Yep.
right.
Yeah, they're already all good to go.
Good job as usual.
Oh, thank you.
You're the best, Brooke. All right, we'll just move right down the line. We'll just, want to go to the, you want to go new business?
We'll go right down, sure.
Okay. Bowler Engineering for 257, 259 Mansfield Ave. Proposed utility plan presentation.
Good evening. For the record, Matt from Basin of Bowler Engineering, representing the applicant or the owner, IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers.
So, what's your name again? I'm sorry?
Matt from Basin.
Yeah, okay.
First off, I'd like to thank Frank. I know he's corresponded with us a bunch of different times, helping us get this thing just about right. So I appreciate all his time and effort to make sure we didn't have the wrong plan, or hopefully didn't have the wrong plan when we came in here. Just as a little background, the International Brotherhood of Electric Workers has an office building here, which is actually in Mansfield. They bought this parcel. I think right now it has a house here with a barn, and this lot is kind of abandoned. They have some poles set up here.
Yeah.
They're proposing to build an 8,000 square foot training facility. So basically, what it's going to be is something I'm probably not qualified to handle, but they go and they train people to climb poles and to do it safely and to work around electrical.
So they're gonna expand upon their other training facilities they have there?
Yeah, my understanding is this one's mostly like office space
Yep.
or their headquarters, and this would be
Yeah, so
primary
like a function hall type
training.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. So I think even inside the building, they would have doors for trucks to pull in, even have poles inside
wow.
the building for training on the
Okay.
inside. So as far as water sewer usage, I think it would be pretty limited. It would be 10 to 12 person linemen per class. They typically expect one class per day. Based on a rare occasion, they might have two classes. A couple of small office spaces around the mezzanine for the trainers and things like that. They would also have a sprinkler system just based on the size of the building. For water connection, again, I have to thank Frank, because this wasn't our initial proposal, but proposing an 8-inch water line that comes all the way down the side of the building here, would end in a hydrant for flushing out of the water line. And then we would start water and fire services off of that. I know fire was also concerned about making sure the FTC was within 75 feet of the hydrant. We proposed to put it here, which is 75 feet of the existing hydrant, but now that we have a hydrant back here, I could also have some options to stick it back there.
So where are they gonna put them now?
The FTC?
Yeah.
I think we're proposing it.
They're still gonna put it off?
Still put it up here,
Right,
yeah,
right,
but I
right.
think if they wanted to switch it back here, we'd have that ability to. And then for sewer, I don't know if you're interested in speaking on that, but we propose to have it come out the front here. There's an existing sewer manhole in the street, so we propose to connect, I guess, into the shelf of that manhole. The water line luckily is on the edge of pavement, so hopefully not too much excavating in the road there. The sewer manhole, unfortunately, is a little into the pavement, so we'll have to deal with that.
Is the water main on the same side of the street?
It is.
Oh, that's,
50%
Nice.
time. It feels like it's always on the opposite side.
no, I remember the hydrant being on the other side, but I think you brought that over for us.
cross-connecting
You
hydrant
did-
for
you
you
did
guys
that
is
for
on
us,
the other
yeah,
side,
okay.
yeah.
All right, yep.
So based on the layout and the proximity to the end of the town line here, there's no benefit to doing a loop here. You're not gonna gain anything.
Right.
I think I sent you guys an email about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, basically, this is a similar scenario to what the new senior center looks like,
Okay.
with that single feed coming in, domestic and the fire service tapped off of that with the hydrant at the end.
They'll have room for the trucks to come by in case a fire truck needs to.
Yeah,
come
hydrant
inside.
placement isn't locked in stone on this map.
Okay.
It's gonna be, looked at by the fire department, make sure that they have
Okay.
their SWEP analysis and stuff, and any type of bollards or anything that's necessary. So this is 90% of where it's gonna be. The hydrant might swing left or right.
And that's the only hydrant on there, right?
The only one that's gonna be added, there is one directly in front of the building.
Okay, so they don't need one on like the top right corner anywhere, that those two would cover the whole.
Yep, that'd be covered.
Distance wise.
Yep, plus it's gonna have the suppression system internal as well.
So right now, there's a house there?
There is
Yeah,
a
over
small,
on the side, yeah.
yep, small house. It used to have like a small hobby farm or something there years ago.
I've driven by there a million times, I don't remember everything.
She used to make stained glass.
Yes,
She made stained glass, she used to, do a lot of stained glass there.
So the existing water services, that gets capped by this
It
project?
will get cut and
Is
capped.
that by us, or is that?
No,
something
it's done by the developer. We'd recommend, if wherever possible, especially on a state road, to try and get that 8-inch line basically almost in the same trench. So you're not making two cuts into the state road and having to do extra repairs and extra work. So, if the layout works, we'll work with
They
it.
wouldn't use that stub, they'd cap it.
It'd be cut and capped, yep.
It'd be a different size anyways, it's
Right.
probably just a 3/4
It's
inch
just-
tap.
yep.
So Frank, I assume this is okay with you?
This
The way
is
it's
perfect
done?
with me, yeah.
Was the old property not connected to sewer?
It is. Not sure what size and location of it. They're gonna need a larger stub, more than likely.
It didn't sound like it wasn't.
Yep. Yeah, pretty minimal. I mean, we can look at that as an option, depending on what size stub was there. If not, that'd be capped and.
Just capped it.
And what's the time frame for this?
When we meet in front of the planning board this evening after this meeting, I think they'd be hoping to, get going in the spring. I think probably this year's obviously shot, be a bad time to start construction, but I think they're hoping to have everything lined up for the spring. They own the property already, so, none of that stuff has to go through.
I like it.
Yeah, me too.
It's pretty straightforward.
Pretty simple, right?
So we could just make a motion to approve these plans, basically?
Yeah, approve them, sign them like you guys have in the past and what we have one on record.
Is there a plan number to reference on this?
We have a whole set. I don't know if you want just this plan or the whole.
So we can just read from it, so we can.
Oh, sure.
do it properly.
To make the motion.
Yeah, C501, and I can give
Give
you
that
a,
number.
I can give you a date.
Is there a date?
Yeah, November 8th, 2024.
All right, I would like to make a motion to approve the Bowler Engineering plans for 257, 259 Mansfield Ave, numbered C501, dated 11/8/24.
A second.
All in favor?
I,
Nice job.
Probably the
Yeah,
quickest.
yeah, thank
approval
you.
you'll ever
Yeah.
receive.
It's all I got to do here. Yeah.
We're the easy boys. Thanks for coming in, appreciate it. Thank you.
We at least need one to have signed. If you want to leave the others with us, that's great.
You only need one?
Yeah, we'll just sign one for now. We'll keep the other two for the field unless you need them. Do you need a signed copy for yourself?
It'll be in the minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll do it.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't know, John is, John doesn't be touching his pens.
He steals
I
my pens
like
too.
those two. Okay, we have another gentleman here. Can see from this design group.
From Pittsburgh, yeah. So we can skip over the.
We can
We can get it out of the way. We can do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, we'll just have you guys sign these and we'll keep the copy and we'll move right on.
Perfect.
Whichever one's easier.
And one,
Yeah, we'll sign the one.
Okay.
Just keep it on file.
Sorry, they're so big.
hey, it's just permanent. When did this get permanent?
That's been permanent. Where you been?
I'm not looking at it. All right, we're gonna skip ahead and, go to the old business, it's a concern in level design, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I just wanna, 0 Mansfield Ave, proposed utility plan presentation. It says 20 minutes, no more, just kidding, just kidding. It's concerning the plan. Have a good night, thank you.
Hey everyone, Nick Helling from Level Design.
representing the applicant, Sen, filling in for Dan Campbell. We're speaking that on the utility plan of changing the sewer. Dan sent over some plans, I think, Frank, overlaying the change from gravity sewer to a low pressure sewer system. And that's basically what we did. We finalized those plans with manholes. The manholes are just strictly used for clean out purposes for the low pressure system. Basically, it gives you the ability to have inverts 4 feet from the surface, so no crazy deep inverts. Running through along Mansfield Ave, long past Reservoir. As you can see here, as we move down the road, we'll be tying into the existing manhole. As you can see here at the end, we can actually change the last leg of low pressure sewer to gravity, so that'll give the ability of other systems, any laterals coming in from other areas, the ability to tie into that manhole and doesn't have to be pressurized.
What's the distance of that gravity portion?
From here to here?
Yeah.
173 feet. And we do have the ability to move that last manhole, so if we wanted it closer or further away. All the other manholes are spaced out at 300 feet. This last one is 262.8.
So if I understand this correctly, this is at the intersection of Reservoir. I know, I'm familiar with the property, so we're gonna bring that up towards the center of town. Is that what I'm understanding, or are we going towards Reservoir?
This is coming right down.
Right down towards,
40, one
okay, okay,
with a sewer from,
okay.
Rockio sewer.
Yep.
But, yeah, you said that, we'd see these plans, we just finalized with those. I'm happy to answer any questions about, low pressure sewer or anything like that. I know there was some other correspondence about, Lot E. The attorney, John, was gonna speak upon that if warranted, but.
Residents are able to tap into that? low pressure,
Yes.
sir?
Yep,
Line,
so it's
if
almost
they
like,
need to?
yeah, it's like a water, because it's such a small line and it's low pressure. The tap is the equivalent of like tapping a water service. It's the live tap with the connection heading to it, and it just drills right in, and then it'll.
There's also an added cost for them to have the whole pump system, and then they would need some kind of power for that if power went out.
This is correct, yes. If it's not, when the state won't mandate people connect, if they have a working septic, it's I think it's 5 years of a failed septic, unless they get a waiver if they're like, a couple hundred feet away instead of being right on the road. But yeah, it's
Is
either,
there a stub gonna go up that side road as you pass it? What's that side road there? Pick Clark.
yes, right here. On that stub that goes up there and then can be extended as needed. And then,
Good.
oh, sorry.
Nope, it's good.
Are the services being left to the properties? Like that doesn't
You
show
bring
any service.
you bringing
Okay,
subs
so
to
people
properties?
have to tap it later and cut the pavement.
Correct. Actually, the service is gonna be, minus the crossing of, on Reservoir Ave. It's gonna be in the shoulder, so there shouldn't, there's services that are coming down their access ways, and those would have to be repaved, but everything else is in the shoulder, and it shouldn't be required to be repaved. We slid it out basically from out, when we were headed at center line of the road, we slid into the shoulder. I think Dan had correspondence with you, Frank, about that, yeah.
So with this being private, the betterments are not in play here, correct?
Right. Yeah, it's just if the septic fails, they have to hook up.
Correct.
Not some
Yeah.
regular
Just
septic.
wanna make sure that,
Yeah, the major concern is with not having the laterals across to each property so that it's basically at their property line to connect.
Mhm.
Because now each individual person not only is gonna have to pay the connection fee, they're gonna have to do a pump, have to get a contractor to do the work in the street, which requires a state road opening permit.
Mhm.
So there's a lot that you guys are leaving on the table, expecting to be done by the residents here.
Yeah, I wish I could speak a little bit more.
Yeah,
that's okay, yeah.
no attacking you.
No, good, good, good.
I
Yeah.
think that it's still.
Yep.
You know, with the way the gravity sewer was before, the stubs would have already been there and no one would ever have to tear up the street to the right of it, right? So now anybody that hooks up to it will have to open up the street.
Which could be an act of Congress, to some people.
Yeah, so each one would need a statement.
Right, which is difficult to obtain. We
No,
had
just
issues
another way
obtaining
to
one.
put it. And you're also saying that you're not leaving keys for the properties, as this is shown, people are gonna tap it like they would tap a water main?
Correct, yeah, the low pressure system, they would have to have a pump in place, so we're not gonna like throw taps with pumps, that would be on the property owners to put their pump and then tie in, because if you just leave taps there, the pressure of the system doesn't really work the same.
Well, in a normal pressure system, we would need, you know, if we were doing it municipally, we would
Yeah.
leave a stub to the property line with a shut off
Mhm.
at each one, so that it does work, and then when they tie in, they'll open up the
Sure.
connection, and they install a check valve at the property, is how
Okay.
the typical system would work.
Is that an option for this? If they wanna do this low pressure main to still be able to put stubs to the property so people don't have to dig up the road?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's how you would do it as a municipal sewer. If you went into a neighborhood and you were doing low pressure sewer, everybody would get stubs just like the,
East
just
Main
like
Street.
somebody on a
So they
gravel.
still have to get a
Right.
pump and the whole E1 system, but at least they're not digging up the road.
Yes.
They go from the property
So I
line.
have a million questions. Do we have anything like this in town?
We have a privately owned dedicated sewer line in a couple different areas. The most notable is North Cottage. It's an inferior sized and inferior material, and they can't even locate it because it's been in the ground for so long, so it becomes an issue when you have emergency calls for markouts. They actually had difficulties. They hired a professional firm to mark that line when the East Main Street Improvement Project was going on, and it still got struck 2 times. The other one is the private line that was done by Condyne for the Leonard Street project. That's a dedicated main running down the road, no connections left for the residents there.
Not a low pressure.
Not a low pressure system with no connections to the street. This would be pretty unique.
So can we maybe you don't, I don't know, what you know, how do we get this to the point? Did we talk about gravity sewer?
It started with the gravity sewer, yeah,
But didn't that change twice?
yes.
So the first time it was something else, and then it came to, and now we've got this.
We did some value engineering. We had a meeting here with Weston and Sampson with Frank and I think it's Dan.
I think it was Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they explained that, you know, the gravity system, the deep gravity system in Ledge, and why it was cost prohibitive for them to have to put, you know, to be able to build their project and to have to front the cost of all of that sewer made it. It turned them upside down, right, as they try to do their math. So we had some discussions about making the gravity sewer shallower, not going as far with the gravity sewer, and then pumping to it. So there was definitely some back and forth on that, and then I do remember that the last time, consistent with what this is, the last discussion was they were gonna go to a pressure sewer. But I did think, at that point, we were still talking about services across the road, right, is what I remember. So we understood that was, you know, we didn't, obviously, nobody's approved it, but we acknowledged that was a cost savings, but it's unfortunate. You know, when you look at this system, you know, so if you flip down, let's go from the top down. All they're really doing, so from where their property is at the end here, so you got the 2 buildings up there, they each have quad E1 units, it looks like. So you got like 8 grinder pumps total for the property. They pump out to the street into this manhole, and then they do, so before we were asking them to be gravity and go through that hump and downhill. So now they're talking about pumping up to the top of the hill. But then if you look from that point right there, that is the high point.
Yep.
So even if we call this a pressure sewer, these homes will pump, like if nobody else ever ties into it, these properties will pump, when the pumps turn off from that manhole, if you flip the sheets all the way down, it's just gonna empty. It's not gonna maintain, it's gonna flow like it's a gravity sewer. It's all just gonna empty out. Which is just, the whole concept is frustrating, that it could be gravity, so if you could put in a shallow gravity sewer and accomplish the same, it would have to be bigger, it would have to be 8-inch. But that sewer is shown, and where I think those manholes are in the same spot that they were when it was a gravity design. I feel like those were just left, because those are 300 feet
What's
apart.
the size of the main?
So they're showing it as a 4-inch,
Yeah. That's
which I would question, I had some questions about that. So we probably don't need to get into the nuts and bolts of all of that. I think, so we did a significant review before and spent a lot of time. We had a contract directly with PyCern. That contract is gone. We're happy to do more reviews, but there's no money in the budget to do that, whether you're gonna pay us or they're gonna pay us. So I didn't wanna go too crazy. This is a whole different concept. Right, so it's a pressure sewer. I did a quick review today, I do have questions about how it was sized. I think the 4-inch for a pressure sewer is probably too much. I don't know that you'll get the right velocities, but I would need to, if we were doing a thorough review, I would just need to see the calcs on that, which is fine. So maybe it would only need to be a 2-inch or a 3-inch if we ran the calcs.
Yeah, it's been my experience, so it's too big.
Yeah, I think your velocities will be a problem, especially if 8 grinder pumps. I mean, that's 1.5 or 2-inch. I understand that it does need to be sized, assuming that maybe everybody ties in along the way at some point. But you would typically stage as people come in, after you get to a certain number of homes, you would increase the size. You don't make the whole main bigger. It really is
Incremental.
cumulative,
taper it as
and
you
you
go
have
down.
to size it. You want to, so that you get the right, you keep things moving and it's not staying in the line. Which doesn't really matter in this system, because none of it's gonna stay in the line. It's all gonna empty. When the pumps turn off, it's just gonna drain, because it's got an open outlet at the
Except
bottom.
what's before that hill.
We call the
That little piece
it's a
before
gravity,
the hill.
it's a gravity
Gravity
force.
force, yeah.
So
Moron.
There's a lot that goes into that, but so I would question the pipe size, the depth. It's all like 3 to 4 feet deep, and I understand this is all an exercise to be able to build their project and put a sewer in all the way down there. That hopefully gives the town some benefit by people being able to tie into it in the future, but in the end, it is about affordability and all of that. But 3 to 4 feet is too shallow. I mean, it's gonna freeze. Especially if, something this size, if you're in the frost layer, when the frost heaves come, it's gonna impact it. Like Tara and I were talking about earlier, I mean, water mains always at least 5 feet of cover is what we hold. So in pressure sewers, we'll do 4.5 feet. And you might be okay with 4, but we recommend 4.5.
Are you insulated?
Oh, you have to insulate it, yeah. For freezing, and if it's in the shoulder, then, so it's both loading and freezing are you concerned. So if it's not in the, if we're out in the state highway, we would also be concerned about the structural loading on top of it too. So it's just, there's some concerns about the size of it, the depth of it.
And the laterals.
Yeah,
On the left.
blacked off, yeah.
So I've done, as a civil engineer, low pressure sewers for a community. I'm just saying, I'm familiar with the concept and E1s, and the beauty about E1, if you don't know, it does have built-in storage for in the event there's no power. So it's not like if you lose power, you can't flush your toilet.
Immediate.
You do have some storage capability. So it's not, I mean, obviously, if you lose power for 4 days, you're in a lot of trouble.
Mhm.
I like the idea, except I would like to see the laterals.
I agree.
We can definitely
And
talk
I
about
think I see laterals with detail, whether or not it's a I don't know, the gate valve or whatever it is at the
It's
end.
like a curb stop, just like.
Curb stop.
Yeah.
I would think that's, and therefore people can hook in into your, and not have to deal with a state permit, which is difficult to get, as most people wouldn't even know where to start. We barely even know how to do it.
It takes a little bit of time to get it in place. And, then the contractor's actually on the hook for that trench for a year from there. If they default, then it comes back on the
And
town,
it's
so.
difficult to patch the road with a state permit. There's nothing easy about it
Right.
for good reasons. I mean, I don't know what anybody.
I agree, Steve, I'd like to see the laterals in there. Keep the force main wherever.
I mean, do we start with just that, or do we have Steve do
Well, I
a
think
little bit
Steve
more
needs to
in-depth review?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, it has to be reviewed by them once it's finalized.
Okay.
I'd like to see the hydraulic, I mean, I don't have to see the hydraulic act, that's your problem, but I think we have to verify that it's going to, meet our design spec. The self-cleaning velocity is very, very important. This sort of becomes a maintenance nightmare. I mean, I know you've cleaned out manholes.
And we'd be happy to,
I'm not so sure the last time the full clean out manholes at Red Mill Village have ever been opened. So, I'm just saying.
There's, one more thing on this too, in this letter. There's a request that the water and sewer commissioners agree to bear the cost of the repaving of the road. We gonna talk about that?
Can I speak?
Absolutely.
Well, first of all, I'm Jack Jacoby, I'm the attorney for concern. This is unclear. I'm concerned, we were told to be here at 6, so sorry.
Yeah. We're out of order.
The first, we're out of order, so.
So, as I think we said in our memo that we sent out to you today, we're trying to make this thing work. The planning board they had an interesting take on things, as they did at that. I have appealed to the Superior Court, but with talking with the town planner and, talking with, others, that they have suggested that maybe we could get this remanded to the planning board, and this time they might take the positive vote. They approved the site plan, but did not approve the special permit for the 2 apartment buildings. And so that's why we're here with you, is to try to figure out how we can make this work financially, because as I heard you say, if it doesn't work financially, the project doesn't get built.
Yeah.
We think that there is, there were 3 requirements that communicated to us by town council. One was that we extend the sidewalk all the way up, in front of not only the 2 where we're building, but also Lot E, which is not a problem. And they also had a second request that even though your bylaw, in my opinion, is written backwards on the 10% affordability, we agreed that we would go with that anyway. And so, of the 60 apartments, 6 of them would meet the affordability requirements, which my understanding is you're at 10.02%. 10 is the magic number, where 40B doesn't hit you in the head anymore.
What? I thought we were above
It
11%.
changes every year. Yeah.
Changes every year, and so as you add more houses, sometimes the number goes up and
Take it down
down.
below, yeah.
So it can't hurt to add 6 more. And so then their third request was that we give them Lot E. If you want to flip it over, I'm sure we have that.
The lot on the corner?
That's the one on the corner, which is certainly commercially developable. It's, every piece of property has challenges. As I often say to boards, all the easy properties were developed a long time ago. Now we're
I've
dealing
been
with-
saying that since the entire career.
and you aren't wrong. So the bottom line here is that, we're talking to them about whether we can give up any development rights. But the whole thing is to make this work financially. And so we understand that there may be some technical details as I'm listening here about the size of the line and those sorts of things that can be worked out. But it would strike me that I've never seen a sewer main go in without the laterals stub to the property lines, so that the people along the way can connect in without having to get a state highway permit to dig a trench. And you don't want your road dug up all that many times anyway. So what we thought was that to make things work financially, if you waived the connection fees and permit fees. And you also, found a way that we could get this paved on someone else's nickel than ours, because I'm sure the state, if we take all these laterals, the state's gonna want the road paved. I've never seen that not happen. So therefore, the question really for you is there a way that we can make this work financially? Because we think that there is a benefit to the town of getting this line in. I understand it's, you know, it's part of your program to get a line like this in. We think there is, you know, a substantial advantage. Certainly there's an advantage to my client because he gets to build the 2 apartment buildings. But we're trying to make this thing work. And so that's what we're asking you is, how can we make this work financially so that you get the sewer line, the planning board gets some restrictions or maybe a donation on Lot E, we have to work that out. We get to build the 2 apartment buildings, you get another 6 affordable units on your roster. So that's where we are.
My initial thought would be that the value that that lot holds is probably, more than what that paving is gonna cost, so maybe the town would be interested in actually paying for the paving portion of it if you're willing to give them that piece of land. Only because the sewer department is extremely small, we only have a handful of customers, so to put that burden on them and waive the connection fees, that's a hard sell.
Well, I guess maybe the ask then is, would you support our request, probably through the town planner, to find a way to get the paving done?
I don't see any reason why, I mean, I would support that if there's a way to come up with a mutual
Support that
agreement.
over more sewer department paying the bill.
Well, that's the concern, is that there's no water upgrades being done here. If water was involved, you know, and there was an improvement to the water infrastructure, you know, you're looking at waiving something and costs could be shared with the water and the sewer department, but having 2 separate entities, 2 separate enterprise accounts.
Yeah.
This primarily being a sewer project, we can't take from the other enterprise account to support funding of that. So there's limitations there by having the 2 separate enterprise accounts. But it sounds like the town themselves, not to put them in the light, but they stand to gain a significant amount from this as well. You know, especially if you're being asked to give up that property, that obviously holds some serious value.
Yeah, if you end up doing that.
Right, if
You
that's
have to got some leverage,
yeah.
have the town cover the paving.
We prefer not to.
Oh, yeah,
but
I wouldn't either.
But on the other hand, you know, we can try the case in Superior Court. I feel confident we win, but I've been wrong before, just ask my wife. But in any event, you know, you never can tell what a judge is gonna do. And that could be 3 years from now when the trial comes up, so there is some, if we're gonna do this, I'm assuming you want this sewer line in sooner rather than later. And so, you know, putting things off for 3 years while we try a case in the Superior Court doesn't seem to be in anybody's best interest.
Mhm.
So I guess our question to you again is, if we can work out the technical details with you, in a relatively short period of time, can we get some sort of a letter that says you took a vote to support the town doing the paving, or, you know, however you want to handle it, but, they might believe me, but they might not, and, you know, reading minutes of this meeting may be valuable, but if you authorized your staff to draft a letter, you know, to the town manager, I guess, saying, hey, we really want this project, and it's valuable to us. The final piece of the puzzle is the paving cost. Can we support the town bearing the paving cost? That's where we are. I don't know if you have anything to add, Nick.
I think once we work out the technical glitches that are there, and we have a better determination of what can and can't go into that corridor, and that the connections to the residents will be allowed, then I think, I don't want to speak for the board, but I would assume that the board would be willing to entertain the option of recommending that the town look at supporting funding for paving. I mean, if we're looking at waiving fees on our end.
Yeah, that's just it. If they come back and say, well, why don't you pay for it? We're already waiving fees.
Right.
So how would everybody?
Right.
So if we waive the fees, connection fees for the sewer connection on their property, but not the individual services for what, is that correct?
Correct.
They would, the individual homeowner would still pay their connection.
Oh,
When they need it.
Right, they don't
yes.
have to tie in, there's no requirement, but when,
Right.
so if this would be we wanna tie in, and if they do, there's a fee associated.
Okay, so, yeah, so if we waived that fee, it wouldn't necessarily be waiver of water services?
It would not.
Okay.
That would
My
not could be
understanding
anything.
of your, yeah, this is all about sewer, right?
Strictly so.
My understanding of your bylaw is that just because the sewer line passes your property doesn't mean you have to connect, but if your septic system fails, then you are required to connect unless you can prove an undue hardship because you're so far away from the road. And I think that's a fair statement of what the bylaw says.
Yeah.
So if somebody between our property and the center of town, their septic system failed, they wanted to connect, they would still have to pay the fee to you to connect. The big advantage to them though is that it's gonna be stubbed right to their property line, which should save them, some money, right?
Oh, the money and hassle, for
Aggravation.
sure, yeah.
Well, they probably won't know about the fact that we're saving in the aggravation.
They won't.
They will not know that,
Mhm.
but we will be saving them aggravation, right? So our recommendation is to finalize, well, I don't know what the next step is. These drawings, we don't think are ready for design, for review. Or,
Well, these don't have the laterals on it, right? So we couldn't approve them.
Correct.
well, I don't want to do anything. I want Western Sampson to be, do their peer review before we actually do that.
I mean,
So
we can review this now, how many more iterations are there gonna be, how many more reviews are there gonna be, is the question, I guess, right? So once we start doing it, the meter is ready, that's all. So
So it doesn't make any sense, well, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't make that. I would think that you want to review the drawings in a more final sense, with showing the laterals on the drawings and any details that, I don't know what beyond C40 there is for the sewer, the other details, whether or not there's enough details on there showing the sewer connection information, pump station, or whatever else that's pertinent to all this, and the hydraulic calculation. You haven't seen the calculations, right? Those are not, you haven't seen those.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen those.
I think the next step is to make sure you have a contract between them to do the iterative reviews, review the drawings. Well, you can do a couple things. You can agree to the corrections and then present the final drawings to us.
I mean, I sent Frank an email with just some initial concerns that we've already, I spent a couple hours today, that we can forward on as things to maybe look at before. I mean, we'll need to go into contact again for more peer reviews, but before we churn any time giving a formal review of this, I think if we give the initial comments,
Yeah, it sets a path for them moving forward, that,
and then if those could be addressed, then we can review it,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
So is it fair to say that the commission is in agreement with waiving the fees for our project and supporting a request to the town of the paving that we know will be required? If we could walk away tonight with a straw vote, just saying that you agree in concept to that, subject to working out all the details, then we would feel confident with telling them to go ahead and finish the design work and get to the peer review process.
I would probably support something like that.
That'd be okay with me.
Yeah, I'd like to see the numbers. But I'm in agreement, yep. The numbers will come out in the wash, I mean, once we review it and
So we have a direction to go forward with now. We'll get the design work done, we'll get the numbers to you. And then, once we get to that point where you've agreed on the technical aspects, then we'd ask you to draft the letter to the town asking for the pavement to be paid for. And, we can, spend the next few months working on that, right?
I'm sure the biggest question that's gonna come out of that is, what's that number?
Yeah.
So the paving,
Yeah. It's one thing to ask them to agree to it, it's another thing to tell them what the cost might be, even if it's a wide range.
I will say, so if we're talking about 1.5 inch connections across the highway.
Mhm.
I mean, you may be able to do those either trenchless,
So I was just wondering,
or the problem with the trenchless is how shallow you are. You know, you deal all together, sight unseen. It's easier to just get underneath everything.
Mhm.
But other than that, open cut would be a very narrow trench. So it should just be, as long as you don't have, so you're talking a 3 foot wide, cut paved that can be repaved. And if they're every 100 feet, I don't think DOT, if they're every 50 feet, DOT might say, all right, now we've got too many of these.
Prove the curve for 2,000 feet.
Right, but if they're spread out enough, I feel like, they would probably approve, and we don't know, we don't know what they will approve, but I think there is a way where it's not a curve to curve the whole length of the whole length of the job. I think you can get away with 3 foot wide laterals that need to be, patched and infrared to make it blend back in again, which would be significantly less than
Okay,
we don't know. So those are the unknowns, right? So, and that's a cost, whatever that cost is, that's the cost that you're asking. So it might not, that you're asking someone else to pay for. So for the town's purposes, it's a huge range.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not just gonna give a blank check, is basically what we're trying to say.
So this is District 5, right?
Time, so I think they have the ability to come up with
District 5, right?
some.
District 5, yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
And again, with making assumptions, you can have one that's, the easy one is to just say, all right, we're gonna have to do full width the whole length. I think we already talked about that number in our previous reviews. We talked about how significant that would be. And then the other question is just looking at how many homes there are, how many times we have to come across the road. And if it was approved as you just have to repave all these, like I said, call it 5 foot, 3 feet never happens, right? So call it 5 foot wide, right, to be able to dig down.
So we're going in the shoulder here, correct?
So all the connections on the short side is no paving.
Right.
So if you're only coming across every 150 feet with, 5 foot wide, you should be able to get approval from DOT to just patch.
do they allow you to jack into the
They
road?
do allow you to jack up, which is something else that could be looked at.
What else is in that road, Frank?
Unfortunately, everything.
Gas,
Yeah, that's-
everything on that road?
There's
Yeah, and
new gas, old gas, there's ledge, there's
Yeah. No, that's-
old Marbell, there's fiber, and there's, you name it, it's out there. 2 water mains. There's a lot in the ground. We've gone through that when we did the water main upgrades over there and ran the services across. We had refusal in maybe 25% shooting the bullet across. So it gets a little more challenging as you get closer to 123 up in the older section there, where the old town library is. We had pretty good success after pit clock as far as going across. It was a whole different material, so. But again, it's gonna depend on what depth and
So is the type of job requires a boring, since it's private, do they have to do borings? Or they don't have to do borings? No?
So, I think we've made some progress tonight, figuring out, and how we can talk to the planner and town council, about this. Field any other questions, Nick, so, thank you for your time tonight, and thank you for your strong word support. And, we will, proceed with the design work. Thank you. All right.
Appreciate you coming in.
So why don't you guys get to meet,
I can turn in the.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
We're not allowed.
Around the building, fixing.
You're putting baby in the corner.
Give me whatever.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Guys.
I just, to see the numbers, it was interesting to see what they are, what the state's gonna stay. You know, like you're good, that's a great point about the paving, because if they are close, yeah, but if there's like you said, if there's multiple.
That's the thing, yeah.
Curb to curb,
10 or over 100 feet,
Yeah.
10 of them coming across, then they're gonna say.
And the state looks at it as an added benefit to them as well. That road's deteriorating rapidly from the multiple trenches and stuff that's been
Yeah.
allowed over the
This
years.
was the last time there was a full pave on that road.
There's been portions of it that were done back when TPC was active, just so that the
Yeah,
bus
right.
ride was smooth
Yeah.
and that was
Well,
further
you have
down.
to talk to District 5, the chief
Yeah.
engineer, and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, once we have a little bit better
You put
picture of
road
what's
reasonable.
involved. I don't know,
Right,
if
well,
I'd agree with that statement after West Main Street.
I didn't know we were waiting for anyone, because I wouldn't have started if.
No, I was unaware that they were,
Yeah.
how many they were
Yeah, he
waiting.
didn't speak up. I'm sure he was.
He's a new guy.
New,
nervous.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
I'm on my own, I guess.
That's how Ryan was. when you-
Yeah, That's why he's not coming anymore. I let him go.
So, let's,
I know.
moving right along to water bill disputes. We can start with One Hastings Way. You wanna leave the room, Steve?
No, I just, moved myself.
We don't have anybody obviously coming in for that.
I don't believe anybody was coming in for the disputes. And all questions are directed to Brooke because she's the mathematician.
Yes. She's the boss. Don't worry.
John bailed
I'm
on me.
saying these ain't no figure or
Okay, gotcha.
foundation.
Let's see.
This was the super high reading right before they changed the meter, right?
Yep.
This, I reading here, the tech was out there and someone had actually said there was a leaking toilet that he fixed.
No, so that was the other.
That's the other,
Yeah.
that's the other address.
So before we get into this, are any of these, Steve, you might be able to answer this. I know you're recusing yourself, but I just want to ask you, the outside spigots on those buildings, are they connected to a master meter or are they connected to someone's? Do we know if they're connected? Because we had a problem
Individual water
Of-
meter,
a few years, okay.
and we don't, nobody uses sprinklers in Red Mill.
No, because there was a woman or a guy that had gone away. He went overseas, yeah, and he came back and he had an exorbitant bill. And we
That
had,
was a leak though.
shit, what's that?
I remember there was a.
I can't remember if, I can't remember if we found it.
No, different house. This goes even further back than that.
Yeah.
It was, at the time, there was some landscaping work and some masonry work getting done, and that was the closest available connection for those workers. And it was later found out after testing the meter, doing leak detections on the house and everything, that a neighbor had mentioned that somebody else had been using the hose while those people were away.
Oh, right.
So that's why I brought it.
Not possible, Red Mill. Yeah, I'm sure.
That's actually where it happened.
Well, it happened once.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the far back area where the houses are pretty much separated from everybody else.
This is a separate house, by the way.
This is a separate house, yeah.
Not trying to
No,
imply
it
that
just-
happened again, but
It came up, it came up and that's when I saw this, I remembered that happening. I can't remember exactly how it, panned out.
I do not, believe any of that happened. over there at 150.
So there's sewer involved here too, right?
yes.
In the past, when there has been a leak, we've waived the sewer charge for that amount.
Yep.
I don't know, Steve, what do you think? But that's the only thing I see here that we could possibly do, because I mean, he went from 13, 14, 86. A lot of water went through that.
And these,
It definitely went through the meter.
These are all-
That he paid.
these are all actuals, they're not,
Actual
Well,
rates.
that's-
Actual,
Yep.
is it ACT? Okay.
Yep. Oh, excuse me.
And if the meter was wrong, he would have, it wouldn't register the water.
Yeah, and the new meter looks like it used 4 in a month, and that kind of lines up with what's been going on, so somehow he used a ton of water during that one time. I don't know, what do you think, Steve? I have to assume that was a leak of some kind that didn't end up in the sewer, right?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, that's what we've done in the past.
Can we waive the sewer amount, but only the difference from like what the average was? Cause it's, out of that 86, there should still be, 14 or 15 or so, it was legit, right?
So we could, normally we do the average based off 2 years.
Yeah.
But they just moved in 2023,
Right.
so
You would say that's what
you
you
can
can
go off of
So can we
what was previous.
go off the
last
previous, yeah,
Yeah, previous quarter.
let's see what that
Yeah.
numbers would be.
September.
September, it looks like it would be 13 was the last one. Isn't that right?
Yes,
So when did they move in?
looks like March 2020.
March of 23? Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can kind of tell here, this is kind of when they came in. Nothing much was
Yep,
happening.
yep.
So we can't go back 2 years, but we could take the last September and use that number.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So how do we calculate out the number of dollars to?
We'll do it.
Okay.
Sorry, proposing.
Yeah, if you want to take a motion.
Yeah.
I
Um,
wouldn't calculate about.
Okay, so I can just make a motion to waive the sewer for the amount, subtract what the previous one was. Okay, so I would like to make a motion to waive the sewer charge for 1 Hastings Way in the amount equal to the 86 units, subtract the 13 units from the previous September. Does that work? Was that right?
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That right? Okay.
All right. Moving right along. We have
The other one.
the other one, 18 Goldenwood Drive, God's Country.
Where is Goldenwood Road?
You can't beat it. It's right over, rich people live there. You can't, you probably couldn't,
Obviously.
It is right off of Maple Street, just around the corner from here.
Yep.
I'd show you on the map, but somebody drew all over it with red marker.
The water mains that are coming out of the ground.
Hey, knocking it off.
Come on.
Oh.
Okay, this is the one that he thinks the high bill is because changing the meter out. The high bill is from the previous meter.
That is what we believe, and Brooke can back us up on that if I'm thinking correctly.
Sorry, I was reading what it said.
The question on Goldenwood was that the high usage was taken during a previous meter, not the current meter,
Correct, yes.
due to,
So that meter stopped working. So they received a red tag for us to replace the meter, which we did, and then they received their bill and it was a high bill.
When you said the meter stopped working, you just mean it stopped reading?
We did not get a read for it.
The visual reading on it was obviously,
Yeah.
read that. Okay.
And they replaced the meter before the bills went out, so we were able to bill him for an actual reading.
Is the previous reading, it all says actual, so all the readings we're looking at here are actual readings taken.
Correct.
Okay, so they're all legit readings. And he doesn't have sewer, right?
correct. So based on the timing of this, I don't remember if this was mentioned in an email or not, but that meter had since been taken apart and discarded.
Yep, yeah, so there's no meter to test.
Yeah, unfortunately, in this case, there's no meter to test.
And right here, when I'm from leak detection, only found out the tech did state after the fact that the homeowner mentioned that he had recently fixed a leaky toilet.
Correct. And the gentleman
He's saying it wasn't a leak,
is
but
saying there wasn't a leak.
at one point in time, he did say there was,
Yes.
or someone said it was.
So, yeah, when they went out and did the leak detection, there were no leaks found at the time. Conversations that ensued while they were there going through the home, it was mentioned that there was a previous one. No clear indication of when or how long or what it was, but it was noted by the tech.
There's nothing you do here, Steve. There's no sewer, there's no meter to test. Everything was the old meter, so testing the new meter would be pointless.
You agree with that, Frank?
I do agree with that. The only option, there seems to be some confusion with the timing of the meter. You know, we could offer to test the new meter to prove that the meter that's in there is accurate. If the board was interested in doing that, we could offer that up as an option, but again, it's not the same meter that generated this reading.
I would be fine waiving that test fee if it gives this gentleman some peace of mind. I'd be okay with that. But waiving the bill though, I don't see, I don't feel comfortable with that.
If it wasn't an actual read, I'd be a little more concerned, but it was an actual read.
I'll agree with that also. I don't think we should do anything with the bill though.
Okay, so you want to just make a motion to waive his fee if he just tests the meter?
Yes.
All right, I would like to make a motion to waive a meter test fee for 18 Goldenwood. If the owner decides to go that route, he may still not want to do it. So I make a motion to waive the 18 Goldenwood meter test fee for their current water meter.
So why wouldn't we want to go with that?
He probably will, but it's not gonna.
Because that's not the meter that was is in question here. It's the older meter that actually generated this
I
bill.
understand. So I mean, so is it a moot point to do such?
It is a moot point.
It is.
I think
Well,
if it gives a peace of mind, then.
it just shows the accuracy of the meter.
And that it's said $75, is that right?
Yeah.
So.
But we did go out to get a read-in, and he's only used 11 since it's been changed out. So the new meter is not reading high.
Right, it's in line with what it used to be, it seems like. Now, to test that meter, is that we have to go put a bypass in, take the meter, and he's out of the meter for a week or whatever?
Mhm. Yeah, it's tested at an independent facility.
Your company actually. Your company do that?
I want to get mine. I don't think so. Although they do a little.
Maybe they do now.
Well,
They
might.
might. They might
On the air end of it, so I don't know. But, so it's actually the,
So we pay the fee and mail power to do such a thing.
Mhm.
Okay, I would think that'd be fine, but
I mean, he's already declined to pay that anyway, so if that is an option for him to, like Jim says, if it's peace of mind, then
yeah,
we can offer that, but other than that, there's not really much we can do.
I mean, it's $75 plus he's a week's worth of water that he won't pay for, essentially, but whatever, it's not gonna be that much. If it gives him peace of mind and everything, I'm on board with that, so. I will reiterate that motion to waive the meter test fee for 18 Goldenwood Drive, on the newly installed meter.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have one more bill dispute that came in very, very late.
We're off the.
If you wanted to take it out of order, or if you want to wait for the end.
No, we can do that
Unanticipated.
now. We're not waiting for anybody else, right? So, yeah, okay, all right, let's just get that out of the way. We're,
This is.
Yeah, this is an interesting story.
So we've dealt with Ron for many, many years.
Well, it's over, I think.
It is right near you. He is the owner of the Fisherman's Tree Restaurant and the 4 other surrounding buildings.
It's over by like Oasis Club.
Yeah, yeah. so for many, many years, there'd been, each building had slowly declined. Tenants had left, didn't notify him. I don't believe he lives around here. So we responded for multiple calls to pipes burst there. We've been called in the middle of the night from the fire department, water running down the road. Each one of them has been at one of his 5 locations there. Unfortunately, he has difficulties paying the bill or doesn't pay the bill and tries to write it off. I'm not sure how he deals with his financials, but easily he's achieved about $7,500 in lien fees, which is totally out of our department, even though he's asking for us to waive it. We don't have that option. That's at the collector. The one thing that he is asking for is an explanation and I guess a possible favor to not be charged a minimum fee for each of the water services. Now, everybody in town has a minimum bill, regardless of the water is being used or not. Same thing with cell phone, gas bill, everything like that. It's a utility charge to keep the service to the property active, live, ready to go. We've spoken to him. This goes all the way back when Rose and Dwayne were here. Fortunately, one person knows who they are. Well, 3 people. One person on the board. It was explained to him then that standard procedure, if you wanted the water service to a facility cut off, you would hire a contractor. We would be there to inspect it. It'd be physically shut off at the corporation stop on the main. You would actively disconnect the water service from them. Board of Health would be notified, building department would be notified, and we would take you off of the charge accounts. The problem with that is now when somebody goes to buy that property, it's being sold with no water. So that new applicant now has to pay the fee and go back into the road and basically reverse everything that was just done just because you're saving a minimum fee for a short period of time. It not only is foolish in most of our opinions to do something like that, unless you have other intentions for the property. If you're going to turn it into a parking lot or something like that, or it's no longer needed, that makes sense. But for a building that's in a state where it can still be repaired and could be sold, there's value to having that water service intact and ready to go for potential new owners.
So 5 buildings.
He has 5 buildings.
They're all right close to each other.
All right close to each other. 2 out of the 5 are off the same service, which is no longer allowed. And
That's what I was wondering. Is there any way to put all 5 on 1 meter? But no, that's not.
No. So we've dealt with an issue here in the past. There's a garage that's kind of squished all the way in the back. You can see it from certain angles. You can see it from the Oasis parking lot. One of the problems that we had here went on for a period of time. They actually had a pipe break in the facility. We responded, turned it off. The place was vacant because they had no heat. That's why the pipes burst. They started occupying the building again, did the plumbing themselves, and totally bypassed putting a meter back in. And we didn't find out about it, for quite some time. That there wasn't even a meter in the facility. We just assumed that they had done repairs and everything was back. But so there's been a few issues ongoing with this facility.
There's clearly no sewer there, right?
There is no sewer there.
I mean,
So, he is actively working to sell the property, which he has been telling us, or telling me at least for 5 years. Just maybe 6 or 7 months ago, he was able to get the last tenant out. And we went and we made sure all the water was shut off to all of the services feeding there. But, in my opinion, he still owes
He does.
the
So you can
utility
have
fee connection.
the services shut off and keep the account active without sparing it.
but you still pay the minimum.
You still pay the minimum. You don't worry about water leaking and
Correct.
catastrophe.
So can we do anything for him normally, or just basically no action? I don't think recommendation.
If it's gone through the meter, he's gotta pay for what's gone through the meter. That's
What it says about 100.
There's somebody
whether it's 75 or whether it's,
I mean, that's a combination of late fees, demand fees, lien fees. I mean, everything's been added to that, those grouping of water bills. It's not just that's one bill for one facility.
As far as waiving the minimum fees, I'm not on board with that at all. That's an open invitation. That can be with everybody.
Why did he give a reason why he hasn't been paying his bill? Oh, and there's no
He has
one,
no income,
Yeah, limited income, he is ill.
wasn't feeling well,
Mhm.
lives 55 miles away, so he's not a.
He's not an active landlord.
Unfortunately, I don't see how we can.
Yeah, that stinks, but
Right. You know, as far as the lien, if he does end up selling the property, we will see that or a majority of that come back to us at the point of sale, which is great. You know, as far as the minimum bills, you know, I'm sure if he has other connections to that facility, he's still paying for them. You know, we have minimum, bills that we receive from, our natural gas provider. And we pay even if we don't have any usage.
yeah, you have to.
It's the same, it's the same thing. It's all utility based.
Yeah, if nobody had that, then now you're paying a lot of money to maintain the system that nobody's using. I get it. I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to take no action on 407, 409, and 411 Old Colony Road water bills.
I second.
right? All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Thank you for taking that out of order.
Okay, let's see. We got Patton Road.
So, at the last meeting, we had a discussion with, Mr. Freeman concerning the lots that, he was able to get converted from non-buildable to buildable.
Do we have something on that, for Jim?
You know,
That's okay.
You just
Do you know-
have to-
do you know-
I know what you're talking about, I just.
Okay,
I don't have.
give him a brief on it.
I'm not-
Okay.
It is. So it was, we continued it from last meeting, trying to get a little bit more information, either from the previous town clerk or from the attorney who would have been present at the auction. Luckily, Paula is still helping out with the transition at town hall, so we did have a conversation with her again. She again reiterates that Mr. Freeman and his attorney are not wrong. It was stated at the auction that any betterments that existed at the time of the auction would have been wiped out. Any liens or anything, existing taxes would also be wiped out because it's an auction. Everything's wiped free and clear. These properties did not have betterments assessed to them because they were non-buildable lots. So therefore, there's nothing to be waived. And therefore she feels, as do I, that, you know, the newly formed town lots are subject to today's current rates for connections. I've spoken with Paul on a few different occasions. I've explained to him that that's all we came up with, to extent of what I've tried to figure out. Okay.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, so they've got these two lots. And when they sold them as an auction, if there's any betterments or any back taxes or any monies owed, that would be waived.
Mhm.
So if they're gonna combine these and make these buildable lots, they need to pay the betterments, correct? I mean, they're not,
Yeah, they weren't buildable lots.
because they weren't
before
buildable
owned both of
before,
them and made them-
now they're buildable.
Right.
Now you've gotta pay the betterments. Now the betterments have to be paid. Those aren't the betterments that she was talking about. I'm assuming,
Mhm.
if I'm not correct, and if any monies that were owed were on those older lots that were not buildable.
So if they would have been assessed a betterment back in 86 or whatever it was, whatever dollar value, and the properties were never built, so they were never paid, that would be still remaining on the books attached to that map and parcel. Where these were
In that case, it would be
non-buildable,
waived.
it would have been waived.
Okay.
Which he has had luck finding some of those parcels down there, that had letters to show that fees were waived on the registry of deeds, or they were paid in full. And he's built out a few other lots down there, not having to pay the current day connection fees, which are more than what it would have been assessed back then. So these lots are abutting lots, but he's actually joining them with other lots on the opposite sides of them to make, to make the lots large enough, to be buildable. Originally, it went before one of the other boards. I can't remember which it was. Initially it was denied. He went back and they actually, they approved these lots and made them buildable. So there was some concern that Paula had brought up that many years ago, when the town was looking to better themselves and to actually possibly put Habitat for Humanity houses on some of these smaller lots, that a few of the neighbors actually were threatening to sue the town, so the town backed out. So, you know, he has the option to do whatever he wants, he owns the
What were they gonna
lots.
sue the town for?
I think that there was just some concern about the,
It's called NIMBY.
Right. Understood.
there you go. There was some concern about, you know, changing the scope of the surroundings. Way back when. So like I said, I've spoken to Paul about this. I explained to him that to the best of my knowledge and everybody that I've spoken to, there were no minutes taken at the auction. Don't know if that's required, if they are existing somewhere. But based on what Paula indicates in a previous email to Paul, from Paula, you know, he owes the connection fees for water and sewer because they were not ever provided to the property. So he has agreed and he has paid those. And I told him that we'd follow up and this is what we come up with, so.
So what is the ask, if he's already paid them?
To waive them.
The ask was to waive the fees, which I don't see how that can be
I
possibly
can't-
done.
I don't either. I don't.
So do we have to have a vote now? Or in this case, doesn't require a vote?
Doesn't require a vote, does it?
He's paid the connection fees already, so I don't see if that even requires a vote. This kind of was more of an update.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Jump right into my updates and see if we can fly through these. I can't recall if I mentioned it last time, but the seasonal flushing, moved to daytime hours so we could complete it. We had 1 or 2 cold nights. It kind of set the tone for what we thought was going to continue. It did not, thankfully. But we finished during the days, and actually right before the drought monitor was triggered, so it worked out pretty well for us. Referring to the drought, we're in level 2 right now. You know, that rain or whatever it was we had the other night didn't do anything. We need you know, good steady soaking rain. You know, unfortunately, you know, we had concerns about seeing the flip flop, you know, as we did heavy wet in the early part of the year, and then we're flipping right back down to dry. If this is the new normal, you know, it's gonna have effects on water quality, as we've seen, you know, with the flooding rains when they return. Hopefully everything comes in nice and slow, but definitely something we're gonna keep an eye on. Like I know Tara's gonna touch on East Hodges Street, lead and copper sampling. You know, obviously you guys are aware, we've had some issues in the past with gathering the required amount of homeowner samples. John spent almost 2 weeks going through the entire list of approved and allowable homes. We've come up with a new list. It was approved by DEP. So there's many new locations that have been added to the list. We do have to follow the tier structure and attempt to go with our 1 and 2 appointments first, and then we can go to level 3s if we need to. It'll give us a better chance at getting the required amount. Nothing's guaranteed.
You're still doing 60 twice a year?
Yeah, so now we have a bigger pool to pick from. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're still gonna have the support with it, especially with all the other stuff that's coming down now with, you know, the new lead and copper rule, the lead service line inventory. You know, people are asking more and more questions about what this may do about putting a tag on their property. You know, and we've explained to them, if the samples are taken correctly, this is an indicator of the plumbing inside your home. It has nothing to do with your water service or the water main itself. And sometimes that raises even more concerns. You know, the biggest thing that I receive is, well, I don't drink the water. I only use it to brush my teeth. Oh, okay. Or I have a Brita filter. I use my fridge for all my water. Yeah. Well, I mean, in that case, what do you say to those people? You know, they're not coming into contact with the water that, you know, we're telling them, you know, could have a concern. A lot of people have even mentioned that they live in some older homes, and not only do they not have the money to do the upgrades and change out the plumbing fixtures and stuff, some of this stuff is pretty elaborate because it's old, and nothing new fits that same design. So, you know, again, how do you target those people? And tell them, hey, DEP's saying that you have to go replace your faucet that's 90 years old, you know, and that's the source of the contamination. Now what happens if it's not? What if it's the lead solder that's leading up to that, and there was nothing wrong with the faucet? And I understand the cause, and I understand the actions that Mass DEP and the EPA are expecting from this, but, you know, it's a little bit more education needs to be done as far as the effects, especially if you're not consuming the water.
Yeah.
So, leading to that is lead service line inventory. We've spent, you know, months on it, you know, cramming in the inventory that we have in-house. We've had some assistance from representatives over at Weston and Sampson helping out with some of the formatting for the online reporting. And similar to what Mansfield has done, we are also going to be getting out a postcard asking residents to help with if they can determine what their service line is coming into the house. So it saves us the actual step of having to go there. If they can get us a picture, if they can upload it online, do that for us. The hopes are that we're not just going to target the people that we don't have information on. I think we're going to blanket the town. And we can use the information that's provided to us to confirm what we already have to see if everything matches, because there could have been upgrades that were done. The house may fall into the criteria showing that it may have, you know, a suspect service, and if it was replaced, it's one more we can take off the list. Even if we have to do additional legwork and go out and physically confirm it with our own eyes, you know, I think that's a benefit that outweighs the cost of these notices.
If you look in the home at the pipe actually coming in, what it is, do you assume that that's the pipe all the way to the curb stop? There's not gonna be some other weird interface?
It's
somewhere in there?
the assumption that can be made. Yeah, that along with the age of the house, we know there's quite a few out there that may have had small repairs. It's unfortunately very common to have a leak where it comes through the foundation, and you'll see that be a newer style pipe, copper or plastic, and it changes outside the foundation.
Right.
So there's no 100% guarantee that it's going to match.
Yeah, that's probably not a good answer, but
That's the answer. I'm not.
not a good answer.
Between that information,
Whole thing up even.
Well,
yeah, between that information and any records that we may have, or with work done that's the best we can really do.
Unfortunately-
Unless you say just have to dig it up.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Who's gonna dig up 7,000
I
services?
would say in most cases, it's the same material, but not all cases.
Not always, yeah. So we'll go with the assumption that it is, and it's more of a problem if it's a poor material than it is if it's a good one.
I don't know if it happened here or if it happened in Randolph, but I think we once dug up a service that consisted of 3 different materials.
Wow.
We've had that, yeah.
And that has to be just one
It
of
was
the.
an older house, it was an older, very older house that, over time, they just did spot repairs.
It was whatever they had at the time or whoever did the job at the time.
Whatever,
Yeah.
whatever the plumber had in the back of his truck.
100%. So with that postcard that's going to be going out, hopefully we'll gather some information that can go directly to the website for the EPA and Mass DEP. There is a notice that's required to go out by the end of next week for any homes that we know have lead service, which, knock on wood, we know we have none in town that are full lead services. We do have some that have lead goosenecks, which allegedly is still a trigger, which perfectly fine. So those residents will be notified. Thankfully, the large majority of them are going to be South Worcester Street, which is the reason why we targeted that, knowing this was coming. But I would expect to see, some fallout from the notifications going out, and hopefully it leads people to educate themselves on the reason for this. It's not that we're targeting them, but all the information is going to be public. So, that's the other thing that we've tried to mention to the people with the lead and copper sampling program, is that regardless of whether you want to participate in gathering the water sample for us and having that information, all of this other stuff is coming down the line. So hopefully that, not to scare them into doing it, but the information is going to be there. Sure. No matter how you look at it. And then the last thing is, we've been basically living over on Dean Street for the past 2 weeks. I can't remember in my 24 years of being here, one road that doesn't want to stay in the ground any more than this road. We responded a week and a half or 2 weeks ago and actually found a T sitting on the road. cast iron T, AC
I
lateral.
don't understand what you're talking about.
I don't have any pictures, it was dark out.
Main breaks.
Pipe failures,
Like a T that was under the ground and now it's not on the ground. Wow.
Yeah, I got your
Serious
message
failure.
later too,
right,
about
right.
that, yeah.
You know, and, cutting those sections out, dressing in new pieces of pipe, building a brand new T assembly and putting that back in. That section stayed in the ground, thankfully. Still 20 feet away on the other side of Harvey Street, we lost a 12-foot section of pipe. Same thing, pressure spiral crack. And the weird thing about the pipe, I don't know if it's the age of the pipe or maybe it really was a different material. I mean, Steve might be able to weigh in on this. It almost seems like it's got more concrete than it does fiber. It has a different texture to it. It does not compress. It's AC pipe, but it really looks like it's a molded concrete water main. It's very, very strange, and we're having actually problems with the couplings sealing on it because it is so hard. So we use.
Is the OD different?
No.
No?
No. It's a thick wall pipe, so the ID is small, so it's very, very strange looking, but the OD is normal for AC pipe. So we were there Thursday night for this section that let go, had to respond. So we were there Thursday night into Friday morning. Friday afternoon, had a call for a truck stuck in the hole because it was still gravel. The couplings leaked after being torqued down, up to pressure, everything was fine. Dig the hole back out, got a leak on one side. Tighten it up, can't get to stop. All right, well, we're already here, we take it apart. Take it apart, put a brand new coupling on it, the other side leaks.
Oh my God.
Take it apart again, put a new coupling on that, finally get them to seal. And then Sunday night, in the middle let go.
Are you kidding me?
So we've done a large portion of that road in and around the end of Harvey Street.
Well, you don't have to flush the area.
And no, it's well flushed and thankfully we actually got a good shutdown.
That's crazy.
6 inch. No rhyme, no reason, for the first failure that we're aware of. The consecutive failures after that, unfortunately, we're dealing with a lot of brush fires in town. So we've had a lot of mutual aid help. We've had a lot of hydrants opening and closed all around the area. Not to say that that's a definite cause of it, but if there was a hairline crack that wasn't there, it's not going to take much for a pressure spike to demolish the pipe. But seeing a T and the pieces of pipe where they don't belong, that was a first. We've had some major pipes let go. We've had the 16 out on West Main Street. We had a section of that let go, and it took the road out, but we've never seen anything sitting on top of the road. So it was unique, and the guys and women have spent many hours down there, unfortunately. So the road is still gravel. We've been checking it every day, letting it pack down. Unfortunately, we don't have any rain, and the material we put in is so dry, it doesn't compact very well. But because of the abnormal size and shape and overall size of it, we're actually going to get some quotes to have it professionally paid if we can afford it. If not, we'll work with highway and start running multiple trucks and get it done.
Do we have a contract with paving, a paving contract with the company?
The highway department
Searches?
has a paving contractor that they choose annually, and they usually get a better rate on it. So we still get a better rate on the asphalt because we do all our trenches ourselves.
Yeah.
But as far as an actual contractor, they're the only ones that actually pick and choose a contractor. So last time we had a large failure was actually Young Ave, and we brought in a private contractor and had it done. And they were in and out of there in 4 or 5 hours.
Yep.
And it looks great.
So you said there's a lot of fires in that immediate area?
Not necessarily in that immediate area, but all on the outskirts of town. We've had, I believe it was either last Wednesday or Thursday, the days escaped me. We actually had 3 fires start off right along here. One was in our backyard, another one was a little further down on Dean Street, and another one on West Hodges. So all along the power lines, and they were chasing them down. So we had mutual aid come in for that. And then just this past weekend, we had a large fire that took off between Eddy Street. It went along Woodward Street through the backwoods there and actually come out to 140. So much so that they actually shut a portion of 140 down between Woodward and Eddy Street, so that they could, get the apparatus and everything in to handle that, so.
So our relationship with the fire department, I imagine, is tight.
Mhm.
I mean, do we go over opening and closing a hydrant as a we have newbies on the fire department?
We have a lot.
Is that something that
It
you had
is,
a sensitive conversation with?
yes, yeah, there's ongoing discussions about, we might actually bring in one of our training coordinators to explain some of that to them. Most of that they learn in the academy, but they seem to brush over that now. I've spoken to a few of the instructors, and that's not really their main focus anymore, which in a small community like us with some aging pipes, it can be detrimental. Some of the larger, newer towns, they don't seem to deal with those type of incidents as much as we do.
We had an incident at Redmond Village, not with a water main system, but with our irrigation system, that our landscape contractor was fixing irrigation leaks and then rapidly turning the system on and blow out all the teeth, all the things. So I had to sit down with them. They basically said, look, we're an irrigation company. This is what we do for a living. Okay, do you know anything about kinetic energy?
Mm-hmm.
Water hammer? Anything about that? I have no clue.
Right.
So I had to sit down with them, train.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, if you're not familiar with the concept,
Mhm.
people wouldn't believe it, but
Oh, the amount of pressures that you can generate are astronomical, and the damage that it creates is substantial.
it's the first thing we learn in engineering school.
Mhm.
Grow,
Right.
really, right?
Yeah.
True.
So we do plan on having some type of a short presentation or training class with having our instructor come in, just run through some basics with them, focusing on the benefits of not creating hammer so it doesn't damage their equipment, which will subsequently benefit us in the long run. So that could happen as early as next month. We're still working on the details, but where they haven't gotten any sleep in many days, we're not pushing the issue.
Worse before it gets better.
Unfortunately, you're correct. So that
Good.
is all I have right now.
All right. Thanks, Frank.
Frank, I really appreciate all the emails you gave us today.
A lot of it was last minute, and I
No,
apologize.
but it really helps though.
Okay.
Yeah, I know your 2 cents, you say please 2 cents, we really appreciate your 2 cents.
I look at it, I think I look at it objectively when I see some.
No,
things that
we
come in
really don't
and-
know anything, it's really, we need your
Yeah.
opinion anyways in order to
Yeah.
make these decisions.
We do our best when we can. John helps a lot with the language too, because I kind of get a little fuzzy with the keys sometimes.
Yeah, and I just want to say that we had an incident at Red Mill Village during the month that don't ask me why I do this. You can criticize me later, but I help out my residents in terms of sediment filter.
Why do you do that?
And so it's a very simple process. It takes all 5 minutes. But in the process of me doing it, when I turned the water back on, the water meter was leaking at the bottom of the whatever the
Water
tank
table.
was. So I called up Frank and immediately it was taken care of. So really appreciate it.
Yeah, I was turning the valve too fast, huh?
I didn't even train that. Maybe I must have. That's crazy, I'm telling you. It's an embarrassing moment.
Yeah, it happens.
All right. Who wants to go first?
Do you feel you want to talk to it because it's top matter? Okay.
You both have 7.5 minutes.
I'm looking for money.
I don't
You go first.
I don't know.
You're looking for money first.
They're gonna be out by the time. Okay, so, last meeting we discussed it's basically the water quality, PFAS alternatives analysis that kind of included PFAS look at wells 3 and the treatment plant, potentially looking at wells 1 and 2. modifying, maybe combining those two sources as well. There's a couple different options there. Just taking a little bit harder look at what we can do for water quality over there. And then, also taking a look at the TOC color concerns that we had at the treatment plant. So that's kind of, we decided to initially take a PFAS study and kind of combine it all into one, because it's gonna be probably footprints and issues that we need to probably deal with at the treatment plant one way or another. So, that was essentially you guys right before the last meeting, and I just wanted to just check in to see if you had any questions on that, wanted to sign this month. Where we're at. I don't even know if it's in the packet. David already got signed.
I don't think you signed it.
No, I don't think we did. I don't think we had time to review it.
Yeah, last month you did not, so,
I wasn't here last
I
night.
wasn't here last month. So I sent it out, gave everybody some time to just take a look at it.
I read it over.
Yeah.
I hadn't have any comments. I think I asked all my questions, I believe.
Yes.
The only question I was asking is about the glass fused tank.
The
Tank
aerator.
issues
Yep.
of, like expansion and cracking glass. How do they solve that?
So not with the, not extreme temperatures, we don't really see anything like that
Okay.
in our environment, so. I can get you more of an actual.
No, I was just wondering,
Company, so, but.
Do you know what?
But
I'm
it
doing
really
it.
is
Going
talk
into
about
the
serious
technology.
heat and.
I'm talking about extreme temperature change if the metal expands at a different rate of the glass. Is that ever crack the glass or anything?
No, you have, it takes a while for that water inside to really change temperature, so that kind of is a
That
temporary.
holds it pretty good.
Exterior wise, you're just dealing with a little bit of cold and heat, but it's not really it's not a drastic, you're not gonna see a huge change in temperature.
When they build something like that, just my curiosity, I guess.
Mhm.
Does it come already as metal with glass fused on it, or do they build it and then go inside and fuse glass?
You can do a field trip, I got one going in a couple weeks.
I used to actually love that.
I didn't go to the plant and go see all the stuff happen, but my staff, are all trained up on it.
I was curious. I don't know anything about that technology, so.
Yeah, it's kind of, the panels are kind of preset and they build the foundation first. And then-
Right.
Do you have a copy of that contract with you? Do
Mm,
we have a copy of that contract?
I printed out the ones. My computer.
And why did you bring it up?
Alright, so, the title of the contract was Water Quality and PFAS Treatment Alternatives Analysis.
Yeah. And how much was it for?
$159,700.
And what was the date of the contract?
I signed it,
October 8th.
yes,
How about that for a guess?
that is the exact date of the contract.
Good memory.
Oh, it's not dated until you guys sign
No,
it.
I understand, but, if you wanna make that motion?
Yeah, I will make a motion to approve the water quality and PFAS alternative analysis, from Weston and Sampson, in the amount of $159,700, dated 10/8/24. All right.
I second.
All in favor?
I
So I will go back to tanks discussion. So I did send you an email also on the aerator that came up at the last meeting. Just giving you a summary. It was first the aerator study, and then the other one was the, where they also essentially the storage analysis study for kind of the overall tanks you have throughout your system, as well as kind of what we're thinking of doing for Cottage Street elevated tank. So the aerator project, we had a bid opening today. I sent you a follow-up email just before this meeting. We only had one bidder. Unfortunately, the other tank company indicated to us about a week ago or so, they're like, yeah, we're not gonna bid on it.
We're required to have multiple.
You're not, you publicly advertised, we set it up that we could have, a third party, as long as they had a certified tank contractor sign off that they were either on site monitoring and or, considered the folks trained up and had done enough experience, tank, up modifications that they could do this. It's not that complicated, but, it is a DM Tanks tank, and DM Tanks is the one that bid on the tank, so,
The competitor for DN Tank didn't wanna bid on the tank because it was a DN tank.
So, I'm not saying that that's necessarily the only reason that it was over what we had anticipated before. So we had appropriated funds about 2 years ago. We did add on some tank improvements that were necessary. There was some, safety precautions on the roof itself, replacement of the vent, and, we obviously have to run some electrical lines to kind of the power over there for the area. We also decided that it would be beneficial to add a mixer as well. We did do that as a bid alternate, which, more or less all the penetrations are the main cost, so they put all the work in the base bid, but the alternate came in at $24,000 for the actual equipment for the mixer. We would recommend going for, that's such a reasonable price, you might as well go with that. However, there's not enough appropriated money specifically on this line item for that. So, Frank and John are just gonna check in with, Town Hall, check in with James just to see what, there was previously, I know there was some storage tank rehab, appropriations back in the past. I just don't know if they're still sitting around, whether or not we can use that, whether or not we could use the current Cottage Street appropriation for design, to kind of go towards this, or if we could use the water quality. This is for the THM's reduction of the town, so it is a full system-wide, purpose to basically reduce this. So to be determined, I just did want to give you an update, at least what the numbers are that we had today, and then, we'll keep it posted once we hear a little bit more from Town Hall. The other option is put it on whenever this potential special town meeting occurs. If that's something
The
that,
aerator,
you can put that on as an additional article for that.
so
And at that point, we may want to do, it depends on what you want to do, but we are kind of ready to move forward with Cottage Street. Our recommendation was to replace that elevated tank, and move forward with that as well. So the full site, you know, maybe start appropriating cash flow for that.
So what are you proposing to take it, you taking that down,
Cottage Street,
really new?
yeah, that's our recommendation.
And, the aeration system is gonna go inside the new tank?
The aeration system is actually for the small, the
The-
large
the other one?
ground storage.
Yeah,
So
okay,
the
yeah.
elevated is a smaller
Okay.
one, and then you've got their large 2 million gallon.
I mean, I'd love to get that done like now. I mean, I know theoretically, but I mean, the sooner the better.
Well, the goal was to
Yeah.
have it up and running in place before, you know, April, May. So there's a couple of things there. I don't want to delay. If you think adding on Cottage Street elevated into this package would delay, we'll just do it at spring town meeting. But the aerator, one way or another, we just need to check in with Town Hall, and see how it goes.
So you think we're gonna find some money?
There's a possibility. There was discussion many, many years ago, back when Bernie was here, that there was monies that were set aside either for a study or for rehab of that facility. We did some work inside the pump house, actually replacing the pumps and motors, and most of it was covered by, I don't know if it was a grant or something we received from National Grid, because we went from the low efficiency motors to high efficiency and included new drives. So I don't believe that was part of it, but it could have been. So we just need to see if there's any remaining monies that we could add to what's already been approved at town meeting for the aerator to come up with that total cost.
On a separate issue, the town accountant keeps those books, is that correct?
Mhm.
So all the motions and stuff, they track all that stuff? We don't track it.
We track, if we have a project that's open, we'll track it that way. If there's any monies that were approved at town meeting and not acted upon, that's when we rely either going back through old
Last
archives.
year, we did that annual report of summarizing all this, so it'd be nice to know about all this money out there that we haven't. I don't know how you do such a thing.
We've found some unexpended funds, which we were very lucky to kind of trip over. So it's a work in progress. Brooke's been digging through a lot of old paperwork and old
It's nice
files.
to count it so that every year we
Yeah.
don't have to reinvent the wheel,
Mhm.
try to find it again.
Yeah.
It never expires, right?
No, once it's appropriated, it's pulled from that fiscal year if you're pulling it from retained earnings. If it was approved to be borrowed, then you just have to go for the authorization and step forward and borrow it.
All right, so I would like to pursue that,
Mhm.
and if we can find the money, we should vote to
Yeah.
authorize it.
We definitely want to move on it as quickly as possible. If it requires an additional article either on the special or in the spring, that'll be the last resort. But there's a good possibility we may have something out there to use.
And the storage tank, you're gonna have it money for Springtown meeting, and
If you're looking to replace the elevated tank, you're gonna need a lot of money, so
Yeah,
that's,
that's,
So that would be a spring, or it would be better to have a special? So it gets to your truck thing.
Hmm.
We in this discussion about that? I think at the last meeting, we talked about the beauty about a special, the fall town meeting was a better time to have a motion to buy a vehicle,
mhm.
because the money becomes instantaneously available after town meeting. As opposed to a spring town meeting, you have to wait till July first.
Right, right.
For a vehicle, what happens is by the time you appropriate the money and then come July first, the vehicle's not there anymore.
At least a specialty vehicle, that's what we've run into. You know, some of the basic pickup trucks and stuff like that, you get a better option.
So the
because-
question here, it doesn't matter on that for the storage
I think
thing.
we start with the first is, let's figure out if there's existing funds to cover the aerator.
Right.
And then if we do need to go to, I think we try to go for the fall town meeting. And then the decision is whether or not you wanna add on the elevated tank to that, which may complicate things more. I can't predict what's happening at these meetings anymore, so.
There's no prediction.
There's not. The biggest thing that comes, that what we've seen is the number. If it's a huge number, people really start, pushing back on it. So if it means separating projects and still basically asking for the same amount, sometimes a smaller number is just taken a little bit better than a big, huge number, because we're talking, what we're.
It's well over $1 million.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
by the
that's
time,
where, it's the same site, unfortunately, but for some reason, everything's been so segregated.
yeah,
Weird
that's
stuff.
like 1.3 or 1.5 or something like
Well,
that.
better it's on the
numbers.
same site than try to cite this somewhere in somebody else's backyard,
Yes,
so. people
We can do
look at
that.
it from
We can
perspective,
put it where we
has to be
want.
better.
You'll get for that.
What's that?
We'll just put the tank where we want. Thanks for forgiving us later.
Eric, you
Yes,
talked
it
about,
happened.
where it was?
It did.
Something you had mentioned was, about our underground storage tanks and taking one of them out of service for a length of time to see how that will work.
yes, so we had proposed, we knew that the aerator project would be kind of happening like late winter, potentially just
Yeah.
taking the tank offline, seeing how it runs, how the system runs. There's a lot of storage in your system, and that's one of the reasons why
Some of it is too much storage.
there's a lot of water. However, there's also the concern that if you need it, so we have the brush fires, you have some issues. If there's an emergency situation, you guys have typically provided water to others and have not usually gotten water from them. So, how the system is run, it's kind of a little bit of a discussion with the operators, and this is a slow change that might make them feel a little bit better about it, but the main concern is, having the water is what the operator's main concern is. So it would be a little bit different than how you've been running your system, but the 3 million gallon tank was built for something that was not never came to fruition, so you have an awful lot of water in your town. Normally you would only have, for that whole development out there, that's just never.
The development where TPC is now, there's parcels and stuff in front that were designated pretty much for hotels and extravagant buildings, and that just never came to be. So, now that you have that much storage, you have it in the worst possible location in town as far as away from everything. It's unfortunate that it is where it is, and it could have been put somewhere else, but it was part of the land that was offered at the time, so that they jumped on it. There's other limitations with that facility as far as it was never, what's the word I want to use?
Built properly?
Built at the right elevation. So there's a substantial amount of water that you cannot pump if you get down to a certain level. The pumps are set too high. So if you continuously
I
pump,
hate when they do that.
yeah, it's frowned upon. Yeah, so if you continuously pump, you can go below that level, but once the pump shut off, everything drains back, and now you gotta wait till you put more water in the tank, so.
Yeah, I've seen it all.
So we want to do a holistic look at your system, just start the process of thinking about what to do, and then have different size options, obviously, for if in the future, if you want to modify one of the tanks, take them offline. I think what we've discussed with the operators, having something more centralized, having Cottage Street ground stay online. maybe do some modifications at the 3 million gallon tank, but you already have not filled it as much as you would, so you could get some, but there is that unusable storage, and at some point modifications should be made to that tank. But in the meantime, the main purpose of the goal of it was to study, what would be best to do for the elevator, but take a look at it. Do you want to make it bigger? In the thoughts that you might eventually get rid of the 3. And so we just want to put all the numbers out there for what your usage was and what you have and what the standard recommendations are. But yes, so currently in the peak demand season at the treatment plant, you cannot fill fast enough, keep those tanks full. But on the other hand, part of that is because you have so much water to try to fill it.
And we don't have well 4 yet.
Right, which I can go into that next subject too. So, well, we did have the driller come out on site. He has started working. They were on, they worked for the holidays, so they were also not here today. But they'll be back tomorrow. Have started work, and hopefully that progress will be quick.
So are they putting in a new well, they're putting a test well?
We're doing a replacement well, so full scale replacement well, and then once that's been drilled, we'll do some water quality and then check that. But then in the meantime, once that's finished and we know that there's no surprises, we'll plan to go out to bid for actual
How
construction.
deep is that?
Oh, test me, we tested on it 3 years ago.
I think it's been,
I want to say something anywhere between 65 and 85.
it was deeper than the other well, but not as deep as well 5.
Have the 2 of you seen a well put in?
Yeah, we're having them done. We're doing it now.
Physically seen it done?
Mhm.
Have you ever seen it done?
Yeah.
You really should take a look at how it's done. It's actually pretty clever.
Yeah, we're having it done now, 2 of our wells.
Frank kind of does his own unique process.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
it's
is a
just
little
the outer
different
well
too.
and the inner well, right? Drilling it down.
So we've got the drill basically looks like a giant drill, but right?
Mhm.
And then you have casing pipes and you jam them in there and.
Yeah, they jack the well
Oh, it's very
casing. too.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
it is.
think it's pretty interesting. Then when they put the gravel stuff in, it's all,
Mm.
it's different.
So we're gonna make sure we have somebody on site to try to, just see what their, screen material looks
Be
like.
curious what they run into there. It's not that far away from the existing, but anything is going to be improving from where that one is now.
Yeah, and the test was all, that was an optimal location, so, I mean, that you don't need to be too far away to just
So
start.
well
with it.
number 4 is near,
It's on the treatment plant side of the
yeah.
river.
It's the closest one to the pond. So historically, we've seen color and levels that we, don't enjoy coming out of that one. So by moving it a little further away and a little higher in elevation, we'll get a little more filtration out of it. So
What's that well rated for? Or what we're hoping for?
500
yeah, I
or
think
600? 6 and 700 or 5 and 6?
Yeah.
6 and 5, I
Yeah.
should say. And then it's 5.
Yeah, that well for some reason rapidly declines. It always has, even after cleaning. So if we're getting 200 gallons a minute out of that right now, I'd be surprised. And we don't beat that well up just because it clogs so quickly. So hopefully just moving it just slightly will get us into a better
And
soil.
how old is well number 4 that we've been operating?
It is not that old. Now you're gonna make me think. It is the newest of the wells.
Okay.
I don't have.
But I think that's still 20 years.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's not old for,
No, because the other ones were around 40 or 50.
thinking 07 or 09 was last time we redid that one.
Oh, well, 4?
Yeah.
Well, that would have been right before we started the treatment plant design.
I think that's the last time it had work done.
So after the completion of well number 4, are we all set for our wells? Or number 1 is
4,
not?
5, and 6 going to the
4,
treatment.
5, and 6 will be all new-ish, going to the treatment facility. We then have to address what we want to do at well 1 and possibly well 2. There is some new developments that there's an issue with the roadway over there. If you're familiar with Pine Street and that sharp turn where the guardrail is steadily lowering itself. The highway department has reached out to engineers to see if they can relocate that road. And it's gonna encroach on well 2 and well 1. So we obviously won't put a stop to it, but we wanna be a part of the relocation to see just what it's gonna do as far as impacts on our area. They are concerned that they will lose that road within a short number of years by how quickly it's been declining. That was an issue that Keith was dealing with years ago, and it's,
Is there a culvert there, or is it just poor soil?
no, it's a sheer cliff. They built right on the edge of the cliff and just natural process of erosion with, no control there. It's just taking it away. So
I guess we have to be involved with that.
we will definitely be involved with that. Oddly enough, years ago, this was probably 20 years ago. We actually replaced the water main on that section. We did it in-house with a private contractor excavating. We put it 15 feet in the ground because the previous super had told us that he was gonna not only move the road, but also cut, a substantial amount off. So you take the crown out and you take the turn out, to make it a little bit straighter. So that was an interesting excavation,
Hmm.
all sugar sand.
Oof.
Mm. So plenty of road to be removed there, just not the right material to hold it in place.
Yeah. You good?
I have one more topic, and I know I did not keep my 7.5 minutes. So we talked about Southwestern East Hodges, a little bit, the last meeting, so they were trying to get through their pressure test and coronation. Coronation took a couple times to pass, but third time's a charm in that sense. They were gonna come out this week, they postponed till Monday, so we're really trying to push them to get the services. Is about 17, 18 services on that street that we need to get wrapped up. Goal is to try to get them all in next week, and then hopefully the week after, just paving. We do plan to meet on site next week, Tuesday or Wednesday of next week with the contractors to talk about what needs to get done, Thanksgiving coming up, making sure we're not turning off people's water the day before Thanksgiving. And then also what to do in the intersection, because we've got a few sticks of pipe to kind of install and connect in. So there's a mystery pipe that we also want to kind of talk to them about, that we found out that was out there. We thought there was just an 8-inch, but there's an 8-inch and a 12. We just want to make sure we're banding everything properly and just.
Is it live? In 12 live?
Yes.
We didn't make it, so.
Jesus, why didn't you tell me it was there? Jesus.
Found it, didn't.
Yeah.
Didn't have it yet. So we did pay estimate number 1 last meeting, I pay estimate number 2 for the next round. It's mostly a little bit more of the 8-inch pipe paving, police details and whatnot, so, we're making a recommendation for payment for $51,241.21 to CC Construction Inc. And we approved Frank to sign off on pay estimates moving forward, so just want to approve the price under this meeting and then.
Where did 21 cents from?
That was my 2 cents over multiple weeks.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve pay estimate number 2 for the Southwestern Street and East Hodges area water main improvement projects. In the amount of $51,241.21 payable to CC Construction Incorporated.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're signing all these?
Actually,
No,
thank you.
thank
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
And now I have, unless anybody's questions on the line that we didn't talk about, or did talk about.
Thanks, Tara.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Steve. On the clock. 5.5 minutes.
Fine. So on the sewer side, so as of the last meeting, Bob Street is done. Phases 1 and 2 are both complete. You guys approved that final change order and the final pay applications for phase 2. So Frank, I don't know, we haven't talked at all about, phase 3 is the pumps, and we would put money in for that work, so. We could certainly talk about that. We were talking about it tonight, but we.
Yeah, we'll have to circle back, and it's been a while.
Yeah, so we can look into that. The peer reviews, I don't know where Zero Reservoirs at. I
haven't heard anything, yeah.
They addressed all the comments,
Mhm.
the plans, as far as I remember, are approved, but I don't know where they're at. And then obviously we talked with, HICERN and, the Mansfield Ave people tonight. I'll send them a contract,
Mhm.
a new contract for additional peer review. And then we'll send them an email with the comments that, the initial comments.
Mhm.
And
On
we'll
that-
go from there.
There's slim to no way the town's gonna pay for the pavement. No, I've never.
Unless they give them that land, that's.
Well, that's,
I've never
I mean,
heard,
isn't that,
I've never heard.
that's what he's saying, right? If it gives them the land.
They'd probably,
It's struggle
imagine
would
be the only
say that,
way.
that's the only thing that I,
I've never.
They don't wanna give it up, but I think that's the only way they'll probably get
I
it.
never heard of that deal ever happening, that the town does pavement. I've never heard of it,
Mhm.
ever. Okay, I'm just saying, I don't know where they came up with that. Also, it's kind of weird that the town's not letting them develop the third parcel. That's also kind of bizarre.
Yeah, that is kind of.
Which I think is why he mentioned taking it to a court.
But it's not a wetland issue or anything like that, right? It's just
He says it's a buildable parcel, right?
It's a completely
Yeah, I
buildable
don't
parcel.
understand how the town has restricted them from doing that, although they want it for whatever reason.
I thought they had said that we're not gonna build on this as part of their deal to ease the town's, what they didn't like about it.
There was some concerns about having the trees removed from the lot brought up by the local residents.
Okay.
And the
Yeah,
town,
they could have put a buffer
boards.
zone in and
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
So
the
I-
boards kind of wavered with the residents and felt that it was another concern.
That's why they're gonna be taking the foot in reality, because that's none of that
Mhm.
people. I don't know how they got that from. Planning board overstepped, I think, but.
Yeah, I agree.
Talking. But I don't know how
Hey,
they.
Steve.
So we continue to work with the Norton Public Schools. We helped them get there, so they've now converted, they've taken their treatment plan offline, they've got approval through the Board of Health to discharge directly to the leaching field. So it's basically a Title V system now. They're bypassing the whole treatment process, and there's a 3-year window on it. They've got 3 years to come up with a more permanent solution, which is really a sewer connection. That is the permanent solution, and everybody knows that. So the clock is now ticking on that. So, Christian basically agreed, the health agent agreed to take it on. So basically, they're not under DAP's jurisdiction anymore. They're off the groundwater discharge permit list.
I'm sure the Valentines will be very interested in that.
So it plays into that, that discussion is that now they're on a time clock to do something.
Okay.
So, I also have to follow up with them. I was talking to Frank had sent me an email last week or the week before that apparently they have ARPA monies to do the improvements to the connections at the Yale School and the high school that'll take out the minimal extraneous flow that's there, as well as give them better connections to the sewer. But they need to be under contract by the end of the year. So I'm still trying to figure out if they want to do that and if we can help them do that. They have allocated like $330,000
a decent amount of money.
for that work. So we'll continue to work with them. And if they want to go forward, we'll have to move quick on that. So the big one is really Elm Street. So since the last meeting here, let's talk about we'll call it good stuff. So we opened bids. Part of our strategy was to have the bids in hand. We got good prices. The numbers are below what we've been carrying for the authorization, the amount that we've been telling people the project would be. So that's good. C. Norton was the low bidder. They did the town center project out here. They done water work out here too?
The name is extremely
They've been
familiar, yeah.
down.
Yeah.
They're fine. They're definitely qualified.
In Mansfield too.
Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah, they're good. So that's good news. Obviously, we can't award because you don't have a town meeting authorization to do so. We did review the bids, so we've sent our recommendations. So I sent it to Frank as email and I'm delivering a hard copy. So we do, acknowledge that they're qualified. We recommend you award to them, contingent upon having a town meeting authorization, which would be a special town meeting. We've also got them to extend their bids at this point. the bids are now good through January 9th. They would have expired shortly. So we have one extension on that. We can talk, that's probably still not good enough based on where things are headed right now, but it's something. So right now, these bids are good until January 9th. I don't know if it's necessary, but it might be worth a vote tonight to authorize, to issue an intent to award to them if and when
Pending town meeting.
pending town meeting. Like, you're not gonna send anything out to them, but that way, if you get the town meeting vote, then Frank could just send it out. Or you could go to the next meeting, so.
Could do
actually
it.
have this.
You can do it now.
Yeah, we could
Just
just
do it
vote,
now, just give it up.
vote for it,
Just a
pending
quick vote, yep.
approval of special town meeting, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, let's do that.
so I don't know how much you wanna put into the authorization, so C Norton, so that's their bid amount, the top one there. So it would be vote to issue an intent to award to C Norton for that amount.
Okay.
Contingent upon.
And this is for, I'm sure, okay, I make a motion to, so we're awarding the bid.
Intent to award.
Okay, I make a motion to intend to award the bid for the Elm Street Sewer Extension and Water Main Improvement Projects to C. Norton Corporation in the amount of $5,627,707.50, pending approval of a special town meeting.
Yep.
Are you all in?
Yep.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now we don't have to sign this right now.
No, there's nothing
Read it on the-
to it, and if and when that happens, so everything, so this package here is all the bids, so we've tabulated and whatnot, and that would be the package. I think we still have the bond, we'll return the bonds once we know for sure what's going on. Anyway, so that's where we're at with that. Obviously, the bigger issue, obviously, is that we didn't get the town meeting vote. Were you guys all at town meeting? Yeah, so.
Oh, we didn't know Jim was there.
He's sat right next to me.
The plan now, so we've met since with Mike Units and Paul, again, we've met many times with many different people. This whole concept of the TIF is what's being discussed now. I think it was discussed tonight at the town meeting and the pre-meetings or whatever. We'll see what happens. I mean, they're still trying to figure out exactly what Devco, the developer, is actually offering. So that's what Frank, you were on, John was on the call.
Yeah, John
John
was
was on the call. I'm sure he will be. So it's kind of in Mike's hands, Mike Units, in terms of, and he was supposedly was gonna have a conversation with the developer on Friday. I haven't followed up with him to see where he's at, but I think do we need to go into the TIF discussion, or do you guys get briefed on that? I mean, basically what it means is there's a little confusion on my end and Mike's end as to what they're offering, because I haven't had any conversations with them, but so there's the piece, so let's breaking it basically down. The 8.6 million that we've asked for is based on our higher estimates. So we're still talking about those numbers, even though we've got a high level of confidence now that the prices are gonna come in.
Right.
$12,000 betterments that we're talking about are down as low as $8,000. But I still don't think anybody should commit to that, other than hopefully it will be lower, but we should still commit to the higher end so that you're covered on whatever the costs end up being. But, so of all of that money, 2.5 million is associated with the sewer and not covered by the grant. So that's what's be trying to be recovered through betterments. And when you break it down, the assumed units at the 47
Mhm.
Elm, 47 Elm is paying 1.75 million of that 2.5 million. So the residents are paying about 750,000 of that. So my understanding is the proposal that came back right in the 11th hour from the developer is we'll pay for the entire 2.5 million. So the residents won't have to pay anything, but we want it as a TIF, meaning we'll front the money, and then we'll get, it's all gonna come back to us over time, once our taxes are due, until that debt is drawn down, and then the town will get the full benefit of the taxes.
Right.
I was under the assumption it was the full amount that they were looking for. Mike thinks and is offering, that's just the $750. That's just, you're gonna pick up the residence tab here. So the TIF is just for that part.
Okay.
I don't know what
That
it
isn't
is.
how I read the letter, but okay.
That's not how I understand it either.
But Mike should know.
And he's trying to find out exactly from them. So, anyway, long story short, that continues to linger, continues. I'm an eternal optimist, and I've been optimistic all the way through this, and I'm getting less and less. The more I hear the angry people, and the more that the boards don't support it, and maybe this tip will do it. I don't know. My problem is I've been, so we're upside down right now. I've been holding on, so we had the grant monies that got us to what was supposed to be the town meeting in the spring. We've continued to support the project under the goal is that once it gets voted, we would get a construction services agreement, and that would make us whole. I no longer know, I don't have as much confidence that's gonna happen, so I put together an amendment and presented it for consideration. I probably waited too long to do it, but I've been hopeful that there would be other means. I mean, bottom line is, the contract, was, the end date of the contract was like February. We've continued to work, and we're over the amount of the grant. So the $520,000 in grant monies, we used up back in June, and we're continuing to work. So I presented an amendment, just yesterday for discussion, consideration, to make us whole on our costs.
Do we see that?
So I don't know if Frank forwarded it or not.
I probably didn't. I
So-
was out most of the day.
I just sent it, yesterday.
So Steve and I had this conversation the other day. My philosophy is, if we ask you to do more work, we should be paying them. There's no reason why they should be doing all this stuff, for basically nothing. So
And
that's
it was
why,
never the intent. And
No,
you guys never said
who
it
knows
before.
if this was gonna do
Yeah.
what it did? I mean, it's kinda
It
like,
got away from us, and the amount of
It's not your
meetings
fault,
and the
because
amount
as
of
I
people
said,
that have been involved.
you guys have done a phenomenal job for us.
Mhm.
And
Especially Ryan.
Especially.
That's only right.
I wish,
But I'm just telling you that, look,
I wish I had more
We-
confidence in him and I didn't have to send Fran. But
We've done-
I
I
wanted to
think-
have some expertise.
we have done everything possible to make this project work. It's really up to others.
Yeah.
The others have, for whatever reason, have not come through. We'll give it the old college try, but there's no reason why they should be not compensated. So that's why I put a proposal together. Whatever it is, I don't understand.
So you're gonna forward that to us,
I
we'll
will.
take a look at, okay, yeah,
Again,
I agree with you,
I always
Chief.
felt
Go
like
ahead.
it was all-
You shouldn't,
So the amendment
I don't
is
expect anything
70,000. So the contract was 520,000. As through the end of last month, we're like 50,000 in the hole. And I carried, if it's gonna continue on, I'm assuming now until February.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a full year beyond the original completion date.
What?
So the new amount.
it's out of our hands,
$70,000.
we can't stop now.
I don't know
We
what
gotta- we gotta keep on.
We couldn't have done it without you, so,
Well, I appreciate that.
Well, we did do it without you.
Huh?
We
You
did, we did.
It definitely cost us some money getting Fran involved.
So the question is, do we have the funds to pay for this?
No, I'm broke.
Without taking it out of your salary, frankly.
Couldn't afford that either. I would have to look and see where the funding would come from, where this was funded by a grant. We have it in retained earnings, I just don't know what authorization is needed
All right, so why don't we
to do
take a
that.
look at that and then I imagine we'll take it up on the next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible we could just
So I
overrun
have
the
3
line
hard
item.
copies that I can
Give them Frank.
give them to Frank. So you have the email, if you want to forward it to these guys. The language is simple, there's not, I didn't go, it's basically just all these extra meetings and stuff, I didn't go into
I wouldn't
a lot of
I wouldn't
explanation.
even put anything.
It's less than what Tara asked for, if that's any consolation.
Yeah. She should be really embarrassed. No, it's just been fun.
Yeah, but it's,
No, I should have come forward
Steve, it's
sooner.
legitimate.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
like Steve said,
No, we've been working hard, yeah.
You don't put the additional services.
well, you've been working. All right, whatever.
No, so I appreciate that.
Well,
I
we're,
appreciate
we're,
you guys
we're
considering
definitely
that.
on board,
Take a
definitely on
look at
board,
that.
yeah, we
We
understand.
can discuss that.
Speaking of next meeting, I do want to bring something up though,
Cookies?
we get, yeah, that's good, that's definitely, the cookies will be at next meeting. I know I'm slacking, I'm the blame on that. Frank and our department in Mansfield got some calls from a neighboring town who's, suffering from this drought, Attleboro. And, they were asking for, water, temporary or permanent, more permanent solutions for water.
We have connection out of work?
Who?
Do we have a cross connection out of work?
We have two.
We do, okay.
We don't have, Mansfield doesn't have any, but we're gonna do a temporary, well, potentially gonna do some sort of temporary thing if they can make everything work. But they're asking for a substantial amount of water. And I think they,
It was a different story
Yeah.
with the conversation that I had compared to what they had with.
I'm just trying to keep you guys updated because these are the talks there, because they're talking to all the surrounding towns. And so we're doing a little legwork and, we actually still have to flush a certain area, because if it happens, we want to make sure it's not gonna disturb our whole end of town. So, in any, that's what they're looking for, some sort of permanent solution. I don't know what your plans are, but I mean, I know we can only supply them X. And I know that I don't wanna strap our town
Right.
with a permanent solution for them, that's,
So
We have our own problems.
Borough at the end of 140? Or we?
123 and,
123?
Yeah, and Maple Street. We have two separate connections.
So A is a DEP thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Can't do anything
Oh, yeah.
about them.
And it's on them, the onus is on them to approach DEP about any kind of connection they're gonna do.
So even if we were on board and
Anyways.
wanted to, if the DEP says no, we can't open that.
Right, I mean,
Now, an emergency-
in an emergency situation, it's different.
Right.
Yes.
But they're talking about, I mean, we're not gonna be able to, supply Mansfield. We're not gonna be able to supply them water. We'd have to do a temporary solution, like a hydrant to hydrant type of, situation. But,
So for Norfolk, when Walpole State, I think it's closed down now, but well before then, we did, hydrant to hydrant as an emergency,
Yeah.
DEP's approval. Then we built a, underground vault, with a master meter,
Yeah.
to make sure that the prisons didn't run out of water. In Norfolk. Worked out obviously all the permitting.
Yeah,
that's
we have hardline connections, but we don't have anything that's metered. It was all installed prior to that.
Compound meter or something like that. Right over the details.
so anyways, just wanted to keep you guys updated. I don't know what's going on. We tried to reach out to Attleboro the other day, and apparently the superintendent and her assistant went on vacation. So, and they're supposedly supposed to run out of water in 3 weeks.
Didn't they just get a connection up the Tucket too and everything?
They did, and that was substantial too. It was a million gallons a day or something like that, or.
You're not privy to this conversation?
I had the conversation before they met with Mansfield, and it was, the discussion that I had was they were asking for basically a small amount of water, because there was concerns with the drought getting worse. So we had looked at what we had, and without any major changes to daily operations or any major impacts to our system, we explained we could probably do 100,000 gallons a day. No discussion about for duration or anything. And then, there were additional discussions that they had with Mansfield that seemed to be a little more critical.
I imagine they're in different hydraulic grade lines,
Yes.
but I'm sure there's valves that you can put in the.
Oh, there's the chemical factors too. I mean, we treat with fluoride, I don't believe they do. But I mean, they're surface water, it's a different treatment than groundwater. What kind of interaction? Probably none, but I mean, it's the kind of stuff that,
pH balance, all sorts of stuff.
all that stuff is gonna come into play.
Yeah, you take a look at it and pressures and.
So it's their burden. Alabama's burden.
Mhm.
I mean, do we wait for them to?
I don't think we have a choice to wait, but I just wanted to keep you guys updated, so in case it comes across the plate there. Cause we're supposedly, Mansfield is supposedly, putting in a vault or gonna be putting in a vault at one of our connections. Depends on who, I don't know, I think we're gonna have more pressure than them, so. It's a moot
historically.
point, but if they had more pressure than us, then they'd have to put in some sort of pump.
Yeah.
Some booster pump.
Yeah, we've supplied them with water through the Maple connection when they had some road work that they had to do and they had a pipes they had to replace, but,
So it was short term.
it was.
Yeah,
short
that's the
term.
emergency, you don't need the pool. Even though it is kind of an emergency.
Yeah, and I think
They don't
all of us towns at one time or other, at least in my career, we've had connections, that we had to use for Norton as well as Foxborough and other people that we've been, interconnected with, but this is more of a permanent, kind of scary solution, if you ask me. That's why I wanted to bring it up. Anyways, that's all I got.
Okay, so I have one thing. At our last meeting, it was on our minutes, the Boulder Engineering for the High Street project, Hill Street project, that was to bring us in stamp drawings. Did they do that?
I have not seen a copy yet.
Yeah, so could we, wait a minute. We didn't sign off on that. You saw.
Yeah, it's gonna be more Ebola.
Okay, so we should just sign these.
Yes, please.
Are you absolutely gonna sign them?
We already approved them. We were looking for a stamp to the plan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that looks like a stamp, right?
Do we have to sign them all or just the one?
Do two. I like your signature.
All right.
We went through them. Now, this is being hung up by others in the town, but that's their problem.
So I actually have a question about plants. We don't have a time frame on how long they're approved for. Should there be, or is it common to have a limitation on the approvals? Or is there a limitation that be in
That's a good
place?
question,
if
like
it-
the mock walls and they come back 5 years
Yeah,
later.
or if the plans get sold to somebody else, you know, even though it's the same design, but it's a different
I
engineer.
think we have to change our rules.
Okay.
I think that should be our rule.
Is that as simple as us making a motion to change it, or?
I don't know.
Is that part of our regs?
It's not in the
Well,
regs.
What's
Design
your?
That's the
So
concern.
the reason it came up is because, and in some communities that have a little bit more of a water concern, like Attleboro, if you approve a set of plans 10 years ago and they have the water rights, right? What happens if they finally come back and say, we wanna finally connect? And, you know, so is there a certain point that you wanna set a moratorium on, like, or a limit on how long
Things
they
are
can
gonna
take
change,
them out?
other people are gonna build stuff.
And for planning boards and other things, with stormwater requirements, with just best management practices, there's a lot that every few years environmental
Yeah, but
concerns change.
You know, conservation, your order of conditions only good for 3 years with a 1 year potential extension. But planning board, I think it's 5 years. Right? Zoning amendments are only 5 years, right? Or something like 3 or 5 years. We should have a limitation on that.
I think we should too.
I agree.
That's a great question, yeah.
We've thought about it. I know John and I had thrown it around
I've
before.
never
and-
thought about it
Yeah.
before because normally people can't wait to get approval.
Right.
Yeah, like,
You're right.
otherwise-
Yeah.
But it seems like in this town, that they don't do such a thing for a reason.
Yeah, so I mean, that's, is a good example of years of back and forth and,
Yeah, I think you should put a bylaw, something. like
Figure out
this
some
with
language.
limit.
Okay.
And we can work on
Oh,
it.
by the way, it's not just plans, the board changes. And then,
True, right. There
and
might be
then,
some different
you know,
thought.
we, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not saying staff would change, but staff
Oh, it will.
will change.
It will. I'm going with Jim. I'm going to Alaska.
You been to Anchorage?
I used to live in Alaska.
Oh, yeah, so, you know.
Steve, did you have anything else? I'm sorry. No. Okay, sorry.
he's back.
I didn't ask.
Oh, there you go.
Backing up, I wasn't sure, I didn't ask you. I have, December 10th for our next meeting, is that okay with everybody? Yep. Sound good for everybody?
Sure.
Brooke, is that good for you?
Perfect.
All right, Christmas party.
Cookies.
Good Christmas cookies. All right, well, if we're all good, Jim,
I move to adjourn.
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.